Dear colleagues, it is truly a pleasure to welcome the Taoiseach of Ireland, Micheál Martin, to present the Irish Presidency's programme of activities. Dear Micheál, welcome again to the European Parliament. For over 50 years, Ireland's spirit of community, cooperation and compromise has driven Europe forward and shaped how we ourselves see as Europeans. And as you embark on this, your 8th presidency so far, I know that you are more than ready to steer Europe to ever greater heights. We're entering a critical 6 months for our continent, and as the world around us becomes more uncertain, people are increasingly calling loudly for a safer, stronger and more confident union, one that stands tall on the world stage while acting at home to improve people's lives in real and tangible ways. That is what we in this House are working for every single day, and I'm pleased to see that with your leadership and with your presidency's focus on competitiveness, security and values, we are both pulling in the same direction. The coming months are an opportunity for us to act together on some transformative files and deliver the progress that people demand of us, bringing our union closer together, helping businesses to grow and supporting our allies while ramping up our own security. Meanwhile, negotiations on the next multi-annual budget will determine how prepared we are for the next 7 years. In all these challenges, Ireland can continue to rely on the goodwill and the backing of this Parliament, and as always the Irish put it best, Ní náart go cur le chéile, strength with unity. That is our European way, and it must continue to guide us all in the months to come. So, dear Taoiseach, I know we're all looking forward to hearing you speak, so without further ado, the floor is yours.
President Metsola, members of the European Parliament, guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be back in Strasbourg at the very heart of Europe to address this Parliament, which gives a voice to 450 million of our fellow citizens of Europe. We hope to be working closely with the members of this Parliament during the next 6 months, and what we need is a major effort of cooperation so that the Irish presidency works optimally. The motto of the European Union is United in Diversity, and this highlights the rich network of cultures, languages and histories that our union is based on, and how we rely on each other and increase our strength by doing that. I am here as a representative of the 8th Irish presidency to tell you that we respect your role and we respect the specific insight that you have. We are committed to working with this Parliament in a constructive spirit and in mutual respect so as to do a good job. I am here to ask for your help. We can do it if we work together. The 2026 presidency, Irish presidency, will be the first since the Irish language became a full working language of the European Union in January 2022.
To present the policy programme of the Irish presidency of the Council to the Parliament today. And we have a saying in the Irish language, Tusma la nahibra. A good start is half the work. We've prepared extensively for taking on our responsibilities. Irish ministers and officials have had countless discussions with counterparts across capitals, in Brussels and with this Parliament here in Strasbourg. We have sought to listen and to understand. We are ready to get things done. Our starting position is rooted in the excellent work of the Cyprus presidency, who have guided the agenda of the Council very effectively through the first half of this year. And I'm determined that we will pass the torch forward in similarly good shape to our friends in Lithuania at the start of 2027. With Greece, we are both part of a proud trio of presidencies that stretches from our rugged Atlantic shores to the Baltic Sea and on to the Mediterranean. Nations each located at the edges of Europe, yet determined to be at its heart. On each occasion Ireland has held the presidency, we've worked tirelessly to make a positive difference to this unique union. While the rotating presidency was established soon after the Treaty of Rome, the broader and more permanent council structure was actually established during Ireland's first presidency in 1975. Time and again we have seen that when we work together, Europe can achieve incredible things. And when Ireland joined the European Economic Community, the debate was centred on whether we were just too poor to participate, with opponents claiming that our economy and culture would rapidly collapse and disappear. The Irish people decided to put their faith in a shared European history. They embraced the idea that in the modern world we can only secure our sovereignty as states by working with others in strong rules-bound and permanent cooperation. And we rejected the negative and destructive visions of a Europe of permanent national jealousies and competition, of permanent insecurities and falling international influence. And since then, we've experienced an economic transformation and growing cultural confidence. And our membership has been an irreplaceable foundation for securing our success and sovereignty. We've also achieved historic progress in overcoming a history of sectarian conflict, an achievement directly enabled by decades of working together in Europe and seeing the values which we share. In particular, Madam President, I would like once again to thank you and the Parliament for the solidarity shown to Ireland when the UK decided to leave the European Union. And thankfully, we avoided many of the worst impacts seen by the UK itself, which the British people themselves increasingly recognise. And in passing, I wish to pay tribute to the patience, perseverance and no little skill of Commissioner Šefčovič, who represented the EU most ably in those negotiations. And moves over recent years to rebuild a constructive relationship with the UK have made great progress and are a tribute to all involved. Madam President, working together, we've overcome many challenges, including in recent years. We have stood resolutely in the face of Russia's illegal invasion and unrelenting assault on Ukraine. Our Union has acted decisively in the face of the largest global pandemic in a century, saving countless lives. And I commend you, President Metsola, and your colleagues here in the Parliament for your unwavering support for its people, for your consistent, resolute and vital voice in saying that Ukraine is defending basic democratic values and we have a moral and political duty to support its cause. And for our presidency, we turn to the old Irish proverb, Ní nárt go cur le chéile, strength with unity. And yes, the EU faces challenges, but we are strong in meeting them together. Our priorities have very clearly been laid out. We've highlighted three areas in particular: the competitiveness of Europe's economy, the need to protect the fundamental values on which our European Union is built at home and abroad, and the security of our citizens. Economic prosperity is what enables us to achieve our policy ambitions. With a strong economy, we will not have security. And without upholding our values, we will not have a union in which our people can flourish and which we are proud to call home. We share the assessment that Europe urgently needs to improve its competitiveness and productivity. All assessments, including the landmark reports from Mario Draghi and Enrico Letta, show that Europe risks falling behind if we don't act now. We need to be economically competitive in order to sustain the European way of life. If we are competitive, we can have the prosperity we need to protect the vulnerable in our society. It allows us to provide a robust social safety net. It allows us to live in dignity, with decent housing, with meaningful and productive jobs. It helps us educate our children and give skills to our workers. It provides excellence in healthcare, allowing Europeans to live longer, healthier lives. Most fundamentally, it allows us to make the investments to keep our people safe in an increasingly dangerous world, and it supports us in making sustainable choices that can ensure a livable planet for those who come after us. The unprecedented heat of recent weeks has shown us how urgent that task is, and the wildfires across Europe in the last week bring it frighteningly home to all of us. In April, the three EU institutions agreed on the One Europe, One Market roadmap, and that sets the course of our work. The single market is the very foundation of Europe's economy and prosperity, and we will work to further eliminate barriers, tackle unnecessary regulatory burdens and boost internal market trade. We will drive the digital and climate transition and ensure a level playing field for businesses and communities across the EU. We will make it easier for businesses to start up and scale seamlessly across the Union, including through progressing the EU Inc. proposal. I'm convinced it is time to take a decisive step forward on the Savings and Investments Union. Progress has been far too slow. The Savings and Investment Union can unleash the potential for Europe's high savings to be used for the benefit of businesses, communities and families in every part of Europe. Trade is also fundamental to our shared future and prosperity for our citizens. The challenges facing international trade today are formidable and possibly greater than at any time in the last half-century. And this requires us to be more driven and adaptive than ever before. Our presidency will pursue a trade policy agenda with ambition, one that strengthens our trade relationships with reliable global partners. We will seek to build an EU-US trade and investment relationship that benefits both. We will work for a close and constructive partnership with the United Kingdom, a trusted ally and friend with a strong voice on the international stage. We will work to strengthen our trade relationships and diversify our markets further afield, deepening trade with important partners such as India, Australia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand and the United Arab Emirates. High energy prices and global volatility are being felt by families and businesses in every part of our Union and throughout the world. We will prioritise work to enhance Europe's security of supply and the development of sustainable, affordable and secure energy systems. And to this end, we will work constructively with the Parliament to conclude the European Grids package. We will support discussions on the benefit and challenges of AI so that we have a model that is based on European values. And to further this, we are convening governments and global stakeholders at an international AI summit to focus on how we can best harness AI in support of Europe's competitiveness. Our shared values, as detailed in the treaties we all agreed, and based on the UN Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, are the foundation of our Union. They are essential to what makes Europe among the best places on earth to be. Europe believes in respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law and respect for human rights, including the rights of persons belonging to minorities. We must defend and vindicate those values, both within Europe and globally, and this Parliament has a vital role to play. During Ireland's presidency in 2024, we had the honour of hosting the Day of Welcomes, celebrating the largest ever accession in the Union's history. And as long as there are Europeans who seek a secure, democratic and prosperous future, as long as there are millions who see our flag of blue and gold as a hope for freedom, we must continue to welcome new members. Enlargement is a win-win. It brings more Europeans under our umbrella of prosperity and security, and it makes us stronger and richer for the contribution and energy of new members. And during our presidency, we will work to bring all those looking to join the Union closer to that goal. We will aim to complete accession negotiations with Montenegro, to make substantial historic progress with Moldova and Ukraine. We will advance the countries of the Western Balkans as far as they are ready to go, consistent with our balanced, merit-based approach. At a time when our democratic values are being systematically questioned, we will promote the rule of law across member states and candidate countries alike. We will continue to support European Union efforts towards stability in Lebanon, Syria and the wider Gulf region, and to urgently work towards ending a devastating and horrific war in Sudan. Our presidency will also promote active diplomatic engagement to support lasting peace and security in the Middle East, reaffirming the European Union's long-standing commitment to a two-state solution. The humanitarian situation in Gaza remains dire. The situation in the West Bank is deteriorating. The behaviour of the Netanyahu government is increasingly extreme. There are no democratic or humanitarian values which are flexible enough to justify the scale of death, destruction and displacement we have seen. It is a cause of deep and justified sadness and anger to many that Europe has not done enough to put pressure on Israel in the light of its egregious actions. I fully respect and understand that this is a difficult topic for many countries and is challenging many long-established connections and policies, but we must simply do more. The need for measures to The need for measures to enhance European security and to build our resilience has never been more evident. We will continue to offer unwavering support to Ukraine, whose people have shown such courage and determination in defending their country. They deserve a just and lasting peace. Political, financial, military and humanitarian support for Ukraine must be coupled with ever-increasing pressure on Russia so that its cruel and morally indefensible war can no longer be sustained. We will work to agree tighter and stronger sanctions. And Europe must also invest in all dimensions of its own security and rapidly develop its defence capabilities. We will actively take forward work on the proposed new European security strategy to ensure the Union can respond dynamically to today's geostrategic challenges. And to achieve all of these goals, of course, we need a budget that can match our ambitions. One of our Union's greatest weaknesses is that we place such high demands on it, but are unwilling to fund it appropriately. We have too often allowed ourselves to fall into a zero-sum approach which seeks to take funding from successful programmes in order to provide for urgent ones. In looking forward to the next budget, there are constraints which are unlikely to disappear, but we certainly have the obligation to show both ambition and urgency. We believe that agreement in the Council can be achieved by the end of this year. There are very different views around the table about how we raise our money and how we spend it, but we will work as an honest broker to try to narrow gaps and to bring people together. And building on the excellent work of the Cyprus Presidency, we will set out our thinking in a new negotiating box in the autumn. President Metsola, to support our policy agenda, we will host an extensive programme of presidency meetings, more than 270 events in locations across Ireland. We do so conscious of how important it is to engage our citizens in our conversations around the European Union. Telling the story of the European Union and why it remains so vitally important to peace, prosperity and security across our continent is something we attach great importance to. We look forward to welcoming colleagues from EU institutions and from across Europe to counties across Ireland, and this includes the meeting of the European political community and the informal meeting of the European Council in November in Dublin. At a moment where so many are promoting division and a return to a failed model of competition between nations, we will clearly and without any reservation speak for the vital necessity of the democratic and humanitarian ideals of Europe. For me, a visit to this chamber always brings to mind one of the most distinguished former MEPs and unquestionably one of the greatest figures in modern Irish history, John Hume. He remains the only MEP to have been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize while serving in this Parliament. While he represented Northern Ireland, he spoke for the vast majority on our island who wanted a future free of the sectarian violence inflicted on our society by an unaccountable few. He was not just our visionary of peace, he was a passionate advocate for peace and prosperity through a shared European future. And just as the great generation which secured our independence brought us to membership of the European Union, John Hume directed us to its values and the opportunities for reconciliation and breaking the historic cycle of distrust and conflict. So for 25 years, he both led the largest nationalist party in Northern Ireland. He came here as an MEP to work with others to define and build a new future for his community, our island and the people of Europe. Just outside this hemicycle, there is a bust of John as a fitting memorial to how important the Parliament's work can be. In his Nobel lecture, John spoke about how inspired he was by this place and the European Union. He spoke of his first visit to Strasbourg and standing with a sense of wonder in the middle of the bridge from Strasbourg to Kell. He was moved by the almost inconceivable success of leaving behind a tradition of savage conflict between nations and replacing it with a new era of cooperation. To honour his legacy, later this year we will be establishing and funding a new annual prize in his name, and this will be awarded to a European who has contributed to the values which John advocated for and to the further development of our Union. John had a vision to see the narrative of Ireland's path to peace and prosperity in the wider narrative of Europe. As he saw it, the road to lasting progress is built in shedding our sweat together rather than our blood. It is a vision that is as relevant today as when he graced this parliamentary chamber. Thank you again, President Metsola, for your welcome here today and for your tolerance. On behalf of the Irish Presidency, I look forward to working with you and the Parliament across the next 6 months. And we will approach this with a spirit of cooperation and ambition to ensure that our shared union delivers for the people that we all serve. Thank
you very much. Thank you. to the Taoiseach. Now for the Commission, Commissioner Šefčovič.
Dear Madam President, dear Taoiseach, dear Minister, honourable members, my dear colleague, Commissioner Micheál. First, I would like to start by welcoming the Irish presidency and wishing you best of luck in this very demanding 6 months, because you just ran through the programme, which is very extensive, and we really rely on always competent and delivering Irish presidency to make success on all the points you mentioned. I also would like to highlight that how happy we are in the European Commission that Ireland's priorities for the presidency are very much in line with the Commission's agenda. And this starts with the closely interlinked and mutually reinforcing core elements of competitiveness, values and security. To consider them in turn, Europe must act urgently to enhance its competitiveness and productivity in order to deliver a secure economic future which meets the needs and expectations of its people. To this end, the Irish presidency will play a central role in delivering on the One Europe, One Market roadmap, which the three institutions signed in April. We are also on our way to fulfil our commitment to complete the single market by the end of the next year, but it's clear we must move faster. During the Irish presidency, we expect to come forward with important initiatives, including the Public Procurement Act and the Circular Economy Act. But we also need to close existing files, including the Savings and Investments Union, the Industrial Accelerator Act and EU Inc. regulation. When it comes to simplification, we need to close the 4 remaining omnibus proposals, namely digital, environmental, automotive and food and feed. In addition, last month we presented 2 more omnibuses on energy and taxation, with another on citizens to follow still this year. We now count on the co-legislators to take the work on open files forward swiftly. Another key element on competitiveness is energy prices, where Europeans and European businesses alike expect action. We need to maintain our momentum if we are to meet the target of reaching political agreement on the European grids package put forward by the Commission last December by the 3rd quarter of this year. Looking ahead, next week we will present the energy package with a proposal on grid charges and an electrification plan, as well as an ETS review and a proposal on benchmarks. I also welcome that our ambitious trade policy agenda will continue to gather pace under the Irish presidency, and thank you very much, dear Taoiseach, for highlighting this priority. We look forward to furthering our joint work with the presidency and with you, honourable members, on issues including the implementation of the EU-US trade and investment agenda, but also on the ongoing trade negotiations with Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand and the United Arab Emirates. I'm also counting on the Council to approve the signing of agreements with India and Indonesia, and for the Parliament to proceed with its swift consent so that they can enter into force, allowing for the full benefits to be enjoyed as quickly as possible. Dear Taoiseach, honourable members, as I informed you last week in Cork at our coordination session, we work in a constructive way with our UK partners to further strengthen our relationship, and as I assure you there, I would reassure you here, we will always keep Ireland and Northern Ireland on our minds. Turning to the second overarching priorities, values. Our values remain the cornerstone of the European project, and we very much welcome that the Irish presidency has placed them at the heart of its programme. Over the next 6 months, there will be a great deal of work to deliver on European Democracy Shield, defend the rule of law and advance citizens' rights, including online, especially when it comes to children. My dear colleague, Commissioner Micheál McGrath, who is here with me, is doing an outstanding job on all these files, and I'm sure that together with the Irish presidency, there will be clear progress achieved very, very soon. As we all agree, our values are also part of what makes joining the European Union so attractive. the prospect of enlargement is once again very much on the table. I will never forget the day in May 2004 when the EU took the historic step of admitting 10 new member states, including my own Slovakia among them. Nor I will never forget that it was in Phoenix Park in Dublin, with Ireland and holding the presidency of the Council, where these 10 members were officially welcomed into the Union. It was very memorable and it was very emotional for all of us. So we count on the experience, expertise and know-how of the current Irish presidency to advance negotiations with today's candidate countries. And further afield, to contribute to our efforts on the global stage, including in our work to help secure a just and lasting peace in the Middle East. Third, security and defence. The Irish presidency will lead our continued support for Ukraine. This is also an investment in our own security, and we must maintain our support to Ukraine across all fronts, militarily, economically and politically. At the same time, we continue to put pressure on Russia, and I welcome the work of the presidency on the 21st sanction package, including the commitment to reach an agreement by next week. On security and defence more widely, we count on Irish presidency to steer work on key files in this area, including our defence industry, military mobility and drones. On migration, this is a European challenge which must be met with a European response. We should now focus our efforts on the prompt implementation of the Pact on Migration and Asylum as the priority. So, honourable members, dear Taoiseach, Madam President, lastly, I want to briefly mention the future multiannual financial framework. Our aim is to find an agreement by the end of the year. And while this is a complex and challenging topic, I am glad that the Irish presidency has received a strong mandate from the European Council to continue the work on this. So, once again, best of luck to the Irish presidency. Thank you very much, dear Taoiseach, for coming to share your priorities with us. And I would like to thank Madam President and you honourable members for your attention, and I believe that we are all looking forward to the debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Šefčovič. Now we will have the round of political group speakers, starting with the chair of the EPP group, Manfred Weber. 3 minutes.
Madam President, dear Commissioners, a very warm welcome to the Irish Presidency. Taoiseach Martin, welcome together with your coalition partner, with Simon Harris, that you are here and also presenting the ideas for the future of Europe from an Irish point of view, having this huge responsibility now on your shoulder. And I want to underline that you are setting the right priorities: competitiveness, security, values. I can assure you the full support of the biggest group here in this House, the EPP family, and your message of let things get done in a way is exactly what Europe needs in this moment of time: delivering, delivering, delivering. I want to focus in my contribution on one very specific, probably symbolic issue, because you correctly underline security and Europe that protects. And Ireland already, in a way, showed this Europe that protects in one specific issue, and that is when it is about protection of children, especially children online. Let me start with an Irish woman, Jackie Fox. Jackie lost her daughter, Nicole. Coco bullied online and offline for 3 years, and Nicole took her own life at 21. Jackie brought the evidence to the police, and they told her there was no crime for this, nothing. Jackie talked to every political leader in Ireland. She built up a movement, and today, because of her, cyberbullying is a crime in Ireland, and it protects thousands of children. Colleagues, what happened to Nicole is not an isolated tragedy. It is a daily reality for children across Europe. 1 in 3 kids has been bullied online. 1 in 3 of these children will never report it out of fear or of shame. That is a reality, and that's why, dear colleagues, to broaden the perspective, next to cyberbullying, sexual abuse, online material is today on our agenda, and we are facing a legal gap on this. That's why we have to be clear that this protection of children is a priority for this House. The facts are shocking, Sexual abuse online is a kind of an epidemic in our social media world. In 2010, it was 1 million reports. Today, we have 20 million reports. And the number of artificial intelligence-based new material increased in only one single year by 1,000%. It's a shocking number. And by the way, with 60% online material, Europe is the hotspot of this material on global stage, on our servers, on our continent, in our neighborhood. Today we have a vote on this, and that's why I thank the European Council for putting this legislation, this important legislation on CSAM, on the agenda. 26 countries supported this. I thank the Commission for the initiative again to show the will from all parties based in the Commission side for supporting this legislation. And now it's up to us as the European Parliament. The EPP will today support the fast-track procedure and also support the content. The Irish presidency, in a way, gives us, with the caucus law, already one concrete initiative in this, and we want to fight for having caucus law on European level as well, that we are protecting our children online. Today it's an important day to deliver on children protection. We have to close the legal gap. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weber. Now for the S&D Group, it's Chair Irache Garcia Perez. 3 minutes.
Thank you, President. Taoiseach Micheál Martin, welcome to the European Parliament. Just 2 weeks ago, I walked through the streets in Dublin. Today, I stand here with those streets still in my mind. Ireland begins its presidency at a defining moment for Europe. Your priorities are competitiveness, security, and our values. But after what I saw in Dublin, I want to ask you one simple question. What kind of Europe are we really building? At Osanam House, Geraldine, Bishop Amos, and other local community workers told me about families who have done everything right but still cannot afford a home. On Garderin Street, where 10% of Ireland's homeless people are living in emergency accommodation, parents are raising children in a single room. I heard about families whose children do their homework sitting on the fire escape because there is nowhere else to study. And a full-time Dublin bus driver whose salary is still not enough to pay the rent for him and his family. This week, Katrina is here with us in Strasbourg. She received 3 eviction notices in 5 years, all while fighting cancer. Taoiseach, these are not only Irish stories, they are European stories, and this is not a Europe that we can accept. That is why your presidency must help deliver a strong, affordable housing act, regulate short-term rentals, and give local authorities the tools they need to build social and affordable homes. Because without decent housing, there is no dignity, no opportunity, and no real competitiveness. At Liberty Hall, I also met trade unions who remind us that Europe's strength has always been its social model. The quality job package must strengthen workers' rights. And the 28th regime must never become a shortcut to weaken labour law, collective bargaining, or workers' participation. Europe's competitiveness will never come from lowering standards. It will come from investing in people. And please, don't allow the fight against poverty to disappear from Europe's agenda. The same values must also guide Europe's action beyond our borders. Ireland has often shown moral leadership on international law. Today, Europe needs that leadership again. We must suspend the association agreement with Israel in full because Netanyahu genocides in Gaza. Taoiseach, Europe's future depends on delivering social progress together with economic prosperity. During your presidency, you can count on the S&D Group to turn that vision into reality. If we carry with us the families of Sana House, the workers of Liberty Hall, and people like Katrina, then we can build a Europe that offers security, opportunity, and dignity for everyone. Gromogat and or more. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, the co-chair of the PFE group, Kinga Gál. 2 minutes.
Dear Taoiseach, elnök asszony, biztos urak.
Taoiseach, Commissioner, colleagues, we patriots expect the Irish presidency to keep the true interests of European citizens in mind, their security and well-being. To guarantee their security, illegal migration must be stopped, not merely managed. Europe must regain control over its external borders. The effective implementation of the Return Directive will be key. Regaining our competitiveness is essential for European prosperity. This requires lower energy prices and less bureaucracy. In the next EU budget, we oppose cuts to agricultural and cohesion funds. We reject further centralization in Brussels, increases in bureaucratic spending, and the ideologically based conditionality mechanism, since it has now become clear that the rule of law criteria are being applied on ideological grounds. The Commission's double standard is well illustrated by the profound silence we are witnessing regarding the new Hungarian government's constitutional amendments that undermine democracy. The removal of the President of the Republic and members of the Constitutional Court, as well as the restriction on the eligibility of members of Parliament, are unprecedented measures in Europe that run counter to every existing democratic principle and the rule of law. After years of baseless harassment of the previous patriotic, sovereignist government, it seems that democracy and the rule of law are only selectively important to this House and the Commission. There is no place for double standards or ideology in the matter of enlargement either. It is not possible to ignore that Ukraine is at war and that Ukraine's accession to the EU will result in serious consequences regarding the European agriculture, labour markets, the cohesion policy and our security as well. We patriots expect more common sense and less ideology from the Irish presidency. Thank you.
See our group to Beata Szydło. 1.5 minutes.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you, Chair, dear Taoiseach, dear Commissioners. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank the Taoiseach for presenting the vision of the Irish presidency. There are indeed many challenges ahead of us. We keep our fingers crossed for achieving these goals. Security is definitely the most important thing for the EU. But in my speech, I would like to focus on the most difficult task ahead of the Irish presidency and all of us, basically, namely the EU budget for the coming years. Multi-annual financial frameworks, the new financial perspective. It is a huge challenge, and there are many question marks. First of all, I think we all agree, at least in my political group, that we cannot impose any new taxes on businesses and European citizens. Now, you've mentioned that the budget should be increased. We don't want cuts in the key European projects. However, this cannot be at the cost of European citizens and at the cost of competitiveness of European industry. And this is another task that is very important. We are all looking forward to the review of the ETS, because this is the key thing, because the European economy will depend on that, whether it will really develop and flourish and become competitive, because so far it's been squashed by these solutions that the EU came up with itself. So fingers crossed, Taoiseach, and I hope that this presidency will be an important and merit base. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now for the Renew Europe Group, its President, Valérie Ayé, 2.5 minutes.
Merci, Madame la Thank you, Madam President. Commissioner, dear Micheál, Taoiseach, I should like to thank you very much for your presentation and your priorities, which are really ambitious for Europe. We are honoured to work with you today, and you there are an eminent member, our MEP friend of Renew. And Renew Europe is setting the same roadmap as you are. We need to finish our competitiveness at last. We need to complete our single market. We need to move on to innovation. We need to work on the right rules. We need to have made in Europe rather than succeeding elsewhere. The MFF is going to be a test of truth. If we want a powerful Europe, we need to give it the means to succeed. We need to pursue our geopolitical targets. We need to continue our support for Ukraine. We need to never give way on the rule of law and the values which guide our European project. I should like to congratulate you, because I'm sure that your presidency will ensure that Europe protects itself. You mentioned protection of children. This I thank you for making it an absolute priority. We've been waiting for this for 4 years. We count on your presidency to conclude negotiations on the long-term regulation as soon as possible, and you can count on the absolute support of my group for this, which is fundamental. Taoiseach, these reforms are not an option. They're a requirement for European citizens, because we are living in a troubled era. The world has been suffering upheaval. Power is becoming more important of law. We are faced with so many challenges. And faced with this world, Europe cannot give way. When we are faced with brutality, we should continue to shore up our European power. We are a democratic power founded on values, on freedoms, and on the rule of law. And we in France believe in European power, because we are not brutal. This is not our model. But of course, we're not going to disappear. And what we have to ensure is we get the best possible ratio when it comes to force. And I wish you all success for your presidency. And I would like to mention one of your major writers, Oscar Wilde, Progress and Realization of Utopia. So let us hope that over the next 6 months, we as Europeans will make that sort of progress. Thank you so much.
Reintke, 2 minutes.
Tafalcha Warod Ahishi. You are very welcome in this house, Taoiseach. And I said this to you in Dublin, and I really mean it, so I think I have to repeat it now also in this house. Europe loves Ireland. I think you are not going to find one colleague in this house that doesn't have a soft spot for Ireland. So we are all looking forward to the Irish presidency, but what we need from you is action, action, action. Heat waves are torturing Europe. Forest fires, temperature records. The Green Deal is more important than ever. Strong commitment to green targets, especially when we speak about money. The budget and continuing the Green Deal will be your responsibility in the next 6 months, Taoiseach. And we trust on your commitment here. Yet, and I have to say it, what we have seen also in Ireland in the recent months has cast some doubt over whether you will be ambitious enough on climate action in Europe. Dismantling parts of the Climate Act in Ireland, delaying climate action plans. Taoiseach, how will you make sure that in Europe we will not experience the Irish presidency as climate laggards or even worse, climate quitters? Because with unprecedented heat waves, but also with our still immense dependency on fossil autocrats around the world, the pressure is on. We have to see action on this. And you said this, our values are under attack. We can clearly see it with Russian disinformation campaigns. Ireland can play a crucial role here. A lot of the US tech giants are actually sitting in Ireland. So you have a key role in regulating their business models. Rest assured, this Parliament across the board stands behind you if you are going to take action on enforcing, for example, the Digital Services Act. And we all know that if Ireland wants to, you can, because Ireland has consistently shown over the past decades how the EU is a powerful stage also for smaller and medium-sized countries. Instead of having never-ending, pointless debates about how the EU is a barrier to national sovereignty, Ireland has simply consistently punched above its weight in Europe and gained more sovereignty through European cooperation. And this is what we want to see in the next 6 months from you. All the best to your presidency.
Thank you, Ms. Reintke. Now, Lynn Boylan, 2 minutes.
Chair Taoiseach, the Irish presidency of the Council is an opportunity to be a voice for peace, for human rights and international law, to put our fundamental values forward.
The approach continues to be, we will be principled, but only when it costs us nothing. Ireland is a country with a proud record on peace building, disarmament and international law. That legacy is entirely missing from the government's programme. Instead, Taoiseach, we see you embracing the militarisation agenda against the wishes of the Irish people and launching a full-scale attack on our neutrality. Ireland should use its presidency to deliver EU action to end Israel's illegal occupation of Israel and its apartheid regime. In your speech, you spoke of Netanyahu's government as if it is a rogue government, when the reality is that Israel has expanded its settlements under every single Israeli government. It is a rogue state. And as heat waves burn, your programme talks of leading the EU at international environmental negotiations, but you embrace the deregulation agenda, giving billionaires more freedom to destroy our planet. I also have concerns that the state that hosts so much of big tech can truly lead on data protection. Enforcement remains slow, weak and shaped by the companies that it is meant to regulate. And while discussion on enlargement is welcome, where is the ambition to end partition of our island? Taoiseach, you talk of a shared island, but Irish citizens in the north don't share the benefits of the EU. Concrete measures like observer MEPs and participation in civil society platforms would help to address the democratic deficit. Across our island, the conversation for unity is gaining momentum, yet the Taoiseach is a spectator. But on one thing we can agree, Taoiseach, without values, nothing matters. That's why we cannot allow Ursula von der Leyen to run roughshod over our values and act beyond her mandate. Now is the time for moral leadership, not equivocation.
Thank you. Now I give the floor for the SN Group to Stanislav Stoyanov. 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, President. The Taoiseach, the European Union slowly but surely is losing its position in the world economy, and competitiveness is a matter of survival nowadays. We need a better environment for investment, entrepreneurship and industrial development. We need simpler rules and accessible energy rather than further regulatory burden. This is our chance for the future. These are the people we rely on for our future, despite the incongruence of the Green Pact. We need to focus on the professionals, on keeping people in employment. We need to focus on the survival of whole regions. The defense is important, but this also requires active diplomacy. Stable solutions and stable peace are a matter of dialogue. Migration flows also need to be controlled. That is why I welcome the preparedness of the Irish presidency for creating a more secure and accessible energy system. Improving the investment environment is essential for economic success. That is the only way in which Europe can re-establish its competitiveness. Thank you.
Kelly, 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, President. Commissioner Taoiseach, congratulations to you for the wonderful speech you just gave us. As you said, you've made a good start, and now let the good work begin.
The theme of the Irish presidency, I think most people can see that's good, and it captures the essentials for this mandate. I think Mario Draghi is outlined in 2024 the need for competitiveness. This is the 5th presidency in this mandate, and I think we have outlined and identified key reports which need to be either finalised or progressed. Maros Šefčovič referred to the grids package. I think we can finalise that hopefully, but also make rapid progress in the Electrification Action Plan, Industrial Accelerator Act, EU Competitiveness Fund. Also in relation to the omnibuses, these are integral to addressing competitiveness. 6 are completed. I think we can hopefully complete another 4. That would be massive. You spoke at length to us last night, Taoiseach, of your work to try and complete the Savings and Investment Union. That's going to be absolutely vital if we are to research, innovate, scale up and manufacture in Europe. Your point about enlargement, particularly Montenegro being out in front, but also for the others, but it must be merit-based, is huge. And finally, a bugbear of my own is try and end daylight savings. Changing the clock twice a year is nonsensical. 85% of citizens don't want it, so let's get rid of it. The EPP will be fully behind
you very much, Mr. Kelly.
In your work because we're partners with you in government.
Thank you. I give the floor now to Aidan O'Rourke. 2.5 minutes.
Taoiseach, I want to start by wishing you luck.
If you succeed, we will all succeed, the Irish and Europeans.
On key issues facing Ireland and Europe. None among them are bigger than housing. During this presidency, the Commission will bring forward an Affordable Housing Act because we in the S&D group demanded it. You failed to mention housing at all in your address in Dublin Castle last week and made only a passing reference today. The Irish presidency must lead in making housing an urgent European priority. 2 weeks ago, I brought my group president to Gardiner Street in Dublin, where 10% of the entire homeless population of Ireland live. Service providers said school children are doing their homework on fire escapes. Taoiseach, our failure must stop here, and the MFF must deliver on housing. Likewise, on workers' rights and climate action, our record is nothing to be proud of. I want to be clear, we will not support any competitiveness agenda that comes on the backs of workers or our environment. Taoiseach, we are the country of Céad Míle Fáilte. We are not a country that chants, send them back. It angered me to see your government colleagues voting with that poison in this chamber last month. Ireland, the country of coffin ships, undocumented in America, and memories of no blacks, no dogs, no Irish, must strive for better. On Gaza, I want to acknowledge that our government has shown some leadership, and again today, in the face of abject failure from many in the EU. We have to use this presidency to end the EU-Israel Association Agreement once and for all. We must stand with Ukraine unequivocally. Taoiseach, the government's position on Organish Aluma is indefensible. This week I will vote to progress sanctions so this facility cannot fuel Putin's war. Taoiseach, as you have said, John Hume once said that the EU was the greatest peace process in history. In honour of his legacy, we should be persuaders for the UK to rejoin the EU and for greater unity on our island. John Hume also said that we cannot eat a flag. Our union has achieved so much. we can meet the challenges of today. We can house our children, stop our planet from burning, reject hate and racism, back our workers, unite the people of our island and uphold international law. Mar scríomhar dánach eile ó the chundé féin a Taoiseach Trádaró.
As another person of our country spoke, I would like to catch the rainbow, the robin's tail. We can catch Europe's tail.
1 minute.
Yes, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The Irish presidency and its slogan, strength through unity. Then, as a member of the opposition, I would say that this unity, by sticking to failed policies, is not such a good idea. And obviously, Ireland is very European Union friendly, and maybe, well, we have migration policy, they have opt-in, and we've got the asylum package. So all of this is just increasing the problem. Then the Green Deal, its impact on Ireland, and there are a lot of unpleasant impacts. And we know that agriculture is a lot under stress. But despite all of that, despite all the political discussion, I would like to say to Ireland that you have a beautiful country, beautiful people, and you have a wonderful culture, and you have every right to be proud of Ireland.
Thank you, Mr. Wilimski. Now, Mario Mantovani, 1 minute. Prego.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. Thank you, Ireland. The Irish presidency on competitiveness, we share values, but I think there's something missing. You didn't mention micro businesses, but there are 25 million of them, and they generate 20% of our GDP in Europe, and they have enormous problems. Access to credit. From 2011, loans fell by 37% to micro businesses due to legislation and regulatory asymmetry. Unfair competition from China is also having an impact on the 28th regime, for which I'm a shadow rapporteur. The left has put forward ideological amendments which would bring in more strict rules which go against the sense of the proposal. The proposal will, I'm sure, be up to the President what to decide with this.
Minutes.
Thank you very much, President Metsola. On my own behalf and on behalf of Fianna Fáil, I welcome the Taoiseach. As everyone knows, we are close friends, and we have been friends for over 40 years. I wish the Taoiseach all the best as you embark on the presidency. We are facing numerous challenges in Ireland and in the EU, but I'm sure that you have the skills and the experience to meet these challenges, and I wish you all the very best.
The presidency comes at a pivotal moment for the European Union. All of us must decide if we want to take our union to the next level of development. To do so will require all of us, including our country, Ireland, to make some of our red lines a little less red. The EU is an imperfect compromise, but nothing to date has come close to it being successful in improving the lives of our citizens. We must get real when it comes to the budget, and that means being honest about the level of funding needed to sustain a dynamic, progressive and ambitious union. We must get real about the threats facing us and invest in our defences. And finally, we must get real about our values, and never again can we let a tin-pot autocrat hold our union to ransom. Taoiseach, I know you care passionately about the European Union, and I firmly believe that you will be the right person at the right time to meet these challenges head-on. You have my full support, and that support of the Renew Europe family in the European Parliament. Now, Dainamid Darude.
We mustn't forget strength in unity.
Now, Sarah Mathieu, 1 minute.
Colleagues, last week I read about a woman in Paris. She was 80 years old. She lived on the top floor of an apartment. There was no cooling. There was just some fans, and it was 47 degrees out there in her apartment, and she died there alone. And many others did this June. In France, deaths at home rose by 91%. Belgium, we lost 1,222 people in only 12 days during the heat wave. And in the same week, the cooling systems in the data centers, they never stopped running for a second because the industry standard says that they can never get warmer than 27 degrees. How can we have cooling rules for machines and not for people? I urge the Irish presidency to put this high on the top of the agenda. We must regulate data centers, take concrete action against the heat waves, and we must protect people. Because computers don't pay taxes. They don't die alone in an attic. People do. Thank you. So let's protect the people first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Luke Mink-Flanagan. 2 minutes.
Fáilte rót, Micheál, fáilte rót.
You're very welcome, Micheál, Thomas.
To the European Parliament, I got elected as a sceptic. I got elected because I was told by the Irish government continuously when they weren't happy with the EU enforcing rules that they were made to do it. I have discovered otherwise. And since I've got elected here, I have to say I believe the Common Agricultural Policy is the most important policy of the European Union. In my county alone, a county of 80,000 people, €1 billion in CAP payments has come to Roscommon since I was elected in 2014. Over the same period, in the future, if we stick with current budgetary proposals on the MFF, we would see a reduction in payments of €200 million just to Roscommon, excluding inflation. All the more reason, then, that we get this right when deciding who gets this money. In the Commission proposal, the text refers to those most in need. To me, the most in need are those that farm marginal lands on small holdings and those on designated lands. We also need to respect those pluriactive farmers who, while not making a full-time living out of farming, are nonetheless contributing in a significant way to food sovereignty and the provision of public goods, the latter which has never been properly remunerated for. The proposals on fisheries are even worse, from €6 billion to €2 billion. And as with agri-funding, this means it has now been never more important that small-scale low-impact fishers are given this money. The money must be provided in a way that fishers can actually access it. As things stand, that is not the case. Finally, in relation to defective concrete, when are you going to get your act together? Infringement proceedings remain open. They do so in spite of the fact that thousands of people's lives have been blighted by crumbling houses. The danger of this issue repeating itself remains very real. The European Parliament has backed this. You now need to do something about it.
Thank you.
People deserve dignity. They don't have it living in a...
Thank you. Now I give the floor to Peter Bistron. 1.5 minutes.
Liebe Frau Präsidentin.
President, Mr. Martin, Mr. Šefčovič, dear colleagues. 3 points were stressed: economic prosperity, value and security. Economic prosperity or competitiveness is something that the European Union has destroyed itself as a result of the senseless embargoes against Russia. Companies are paying the highest energy prices. They're no longer competitive on world markets and are leaving the European Union or just going bankrupt. And at the same time, the European Union is paying €300 billion to the Ukraine. They've paid this since the beginning of the war. And how much money goes into research and promoting competitiveness? The Competitiveness Fund is going to get €90 billion for the same period of time, and only 1 or 2 billion are going to go to startups. We have to strengthen research and innovation. And values, what kind of values are you talking about? We're going to be voting on a ban on a European political party as a request of the Greens and the Communist left. And they are the enemies of democracy. They're trampling on democracy. Security in the European Union? Well, I'm all ears. These two little girls and the wife of the Swedish police officer, Christian Seger, who was killed. You have to look after the security of citizens of the European Union. It's been destroyed by this mass influx of migrants, and we're the only ones who are protecting our citizens of Europe from the opposition.
Fernand Kartheiser, 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Taoiseach, Ireland's presidency must not be a presidency like all the others. Many Europeans hope Ireland will build on its own proud history and independent character rather than obediently fulfil the Commission's agenda. Ireland is a neutral country and should oppose the EU's transformation into a European NATO. Instead of supporting the escalation and prolongation of conflicts, it should use its presidency to guide Europe towards diplomacy and a negotiated settlement with our Russian neighbours. Ireland is a proudly Catholic country. It should oppose generalised same-sex parental recognition and surrogacy in the EU. Ireland should stand firm in defending our children's rights against those who merchandise them, as well as their biological mothers. The Irish are freedom-loving people. Please fight now to abolish EU censorship, the democracy shield and regulated access to social media. I wish the Irish presidency courage and success for its 8th Council presidency.
I give the floor now to Siegfried Mureşan, 1.5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Prime Minister, Taoiseach, colleagues, welcome to the European Parliament. Look, a very vast majority of the members of the European Parliament agrees that the priorities of the Union for the upcoming months are firstly defending European values, protecting our democracy, our freedoms. Secondly, investing more in our security, in our defence, protecting citizens, and thirdly, strengthening the economy, making it more competitive, ready for the digital age and for artificial intelligence. Prime Minister, the programme of the Irish presidency that you are putting forward today identifies these priorities also as the priorities of the Irish presidency. This is correct. We thank you for this. In addition to this, we also very much welcome your focus on enlargement, supporting, strengthening our neighbouring countries, which are also EU candidate countries, is good for the candidate countries, but it is good for the Union as well. The stronger, the more stable the candidate countries are, the better also for the security of the 27 member states. So full support also for your ambitious merit-based enlargement agenda. If we want Europe to do more, to protect its citizens, to become more competitive, we have to equip it with the right tools. One of the tools is the budget of the European Union. We as a Parliament, at the end of April, have adopted our common position on the EU budget for the next 7 years, identifying security and competitiveness as the new priorities of the budget, but not neglecting what has proven its viability in time, protecting fishers, protecting farmers, protecting our regions. We want a future-oriented, modern cohesion policy. It's clear that when it comes to the budget, we can't do more with less. This is why we stand for an ambitious budget. Please make sure that as we have a Parliament's position, there will be a Council position by the end of the year, based also on the transparent introduction of own sources of revenue of the European Union. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now 1 minute for Carla Tavares.
President, Commissioner. First of all, greetings to the Irish presidency, and I'm sure that cooperation with Parliament will be close and fruitful. One of the priorities for the presidency is the long-term budget of the Union, and we know that there's a commitment to intensive, ambitious work with all the leaders of the EU so that an agreement can be reached by the end of 2026. As you know, Chair, for the European Parliament, it's absolutely crystal clear that we get this agreement by the end of the year, but we cannot work on the MFF without looking further than just spending. We need to talk about budgetary ambition. We need to look at the revenue side of things. Obviously, own resources, which make the European budget more robust, fairer, and less dependent on national resources. We can't do more with less. We support the approach from the Commission for a basket to obtain an agreement on new own resources. We need an EU that's more secure, more competitive, cohesive, and with a budget that is up to this level of ambition. We need more investment. A stronger Europe needs a stronger budget as well. Thank you very much.
Ehlers, 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President, Prime Minister, Commissioner. Europeans are asking simple but existential questions. How do we pay for food, electricity and rent? Will we still have a job tomorrow? And why are our streets no longer safe for our women and children? These are the concerns of ordinary citizens. Yet in your chapter on security, I find little to nothing about criminal migrants or returning those with no right to stay. Instead, I read about security in all dimensions and something called climate security. Interesting concepts, perhaps, but not the priorities citizens expect. Europe does not need better migration management. It needs control of its borders. The priority should be rapid returns, not more legal migration pathways. And on the next multi-annual budget, taxpayers expect discipline and value for money. Instead, the Irish presidency advocates a larger EU budget, higher national contributions and more common borrowing. But the answer to every challenge cannot be to throw more money at it. And when it comes to the staggering energy prices, your programme mentions affordable energy only 3 times. The word gender, on the other hand, appears 14 times. Europe does not need more migration, more debt, and more ideology. It needs realism, regulatory prudence, and sound fiscal policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I give the floor to Asita Kanko. 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. In all what you said, Presidency, I haven't heard much about anti-Semitism, yet a big issue in Europe. As you know, we still need to protect Jewish schools and institutions in many European cities, and that is a fact. You speak of the importance of our European way of life, and I totally welcome that. I must say what it means today, though. You need to give faith to European people again, faith in justice, faith in equality, faith in what the soul of Europe is. To me, it means that values are not a la carte. It means we all have access to the same justice, that no woman is subject to marital captivity or reduced to parallel justice systems. We need a Europe that says no to radical Islam and designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terror organization. We need a Europe that protects its children against sexual abuse online. For 6 years, we have been talking but never delivered regarding the regulation. Some of the children abused today were even not born.
Thank you, Ms. Kanko.
Today, I will vote for the urgent procedure, but we need you to deliver the next.
Thank you very much. Michael McNamara, 1 minute.
Thank you, President. This is a personal achievement for you, Taoiseach. I wish you all the best.
The presidency will be built on long hours by countless Irish civil servants, far from today's limelight and that of recent days. And I think we should remember their work and wish them success as well in their important tasks. As we assume leadership of the EU budget, we must lead by example. Try to do more with less, not less with more. We need to invest in our beleaguered defence forces, but that does not mean abandoning the proud role of neutral, non-aligned states and our place among them. Instead, we're spending €293 million on this presidency. It's far too much, Taoiseach. Pull back on it. It's not necessary. Included in that is €135,000 for wolf scarves to be of uniquely Irish artistic character, but not necessarily Irish wool. It's 30 degrees outside, Taoiseach. When it does cool down, everybody around here is well capable of buying their own scarves.
Thank you very much. Thomas Weitz, 1 minute.
Thank you, President, Taoiseach, Commissioner. First of all, thank you for your preparation already towards this presidency. I see you're very active already in preparing, and your people around also talking to many of us. I have 3 wishes to your direction. Ireland is hosting family farming. Ireland is hosting relatively small and medium-sized farming. We're negotiating the common agricultural policy. I count on you that you help us, that we support real farmers, and we don't dilute European taxpayers' money to big investment investment funds or super rich investors across the European Union. And we can really safeguard that the farmers that work hard on their land and that also work in a climate, animal welfare and environmental friendly way have access to the funds. In this combination also, please make sure that this renationalization of European money is not leading to a fragmentation, to a distortion of markets, that we still keep the common in our policy, may it be common agriculture policy or others. And thank you for standing up for enlargement and for this cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jeroen Lenners, 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, President. Dear colleagues, welcome, Taoiseach. As my member state has been paired with County Mayo during your presidency, I have to start by congratulating Mayo for reaching the semi-finals at the expense of your very own Cork. Mayo for Sam. On a more serious note, the Irish presidency has chosen 3 clear priorities: competitiveness, values and security, joined together under the motto strength with unity, and that is both timely and appropriate. On competitiveness, Europe must become more productive and competitive. We must continue cutting unnecessary bureaucracy and creating the conditions for businesses to invest, innovate and grow. But that alone will not be enough. We must also strengthen our industry, deepen our internal market and realise true strategic autonomy. On values, protecting our values also means protecting our children. They deserve to grow up in a safe online environment, protected from exploitation and harmful content. And I count on the Irish presidency to make online child safety a central priority throughout its term, as it has done successfully at home. And then finally, security. Europe must continue to stand with Ukraine, but every member state must contribute in a more fair share if Europe wants to remain credible. Colleagues, there are many challenges, but they all require the same response: a Europe that acts together with determination. And that is how we turn strength with unity from a motto into a lasting legacy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lenners. Now, Jean-Marc Germain, 1 minute.
Monsieur le Prime Minister, at the time where you are presiding over the multi-annual financial framework budget, we want to send a clear message to you. We cannot build competitiveness by sacrificing solidarity or by leaving an unlivable planet to our children. By sheltering each other, that's how we'll survive. I think the Irish proverb goes. By using other funds to fund the competitiveness fund, that's not something the European Parliament will agree to. And I can see the temptations to kill the DNSH or others to feast on the collateral damage. We're living through a terrible heat wave, and your presidency needs to focus on us working in a united on a united basis with a responsibility to the environment. Thank you.
Dear colleagues, today our farmers don't like promises. They have plenty of those. The EU has basically become a constraint for them. They set all these lovely objectives: competitiveness, food security, simplification. But in fact, it's just endless debates that stifle people trying to produce our food. Our farmers don't need long speeches. They need a proper salary and long-term vision. They are subject to a number of difficulties: imports that don't meet our standards, rules constantly changing, and bureaucracy that is now out of control. They are being stuck in the Green Deal, or the Farm to Fork, the new CAP, and they're all punitive. How can we make agriculture a priority if we're going to reduce the CAP envelope? Livestock farming is not a mistake that has to be corrected. It's part of our wealth. It's a pillar of our sovereignty. You talk about new agriculture, but you never go and meet or listen to or try to understand actual farmers. So we very much hope that this new presidency will listen to farmers and defend a strong CAP, one that is independent and works for our producers.
Ronsa, 1 minute.
President, Prime Minister, Taoiseach, it's a great pleasure up to now. But now a couple of details. One of the European think tanks has said that in 2025, the European Union lost 95 billion euro because there's a huge offensive on the part of Chinese industry in Europe and taking over companies. And then we have the Green Deal. Energy has to be cheap for our industrialists, and then it has to be properly green. And I think under the Irish presidency, we know that historically speaking, the European Union has the largest debt, and never, ever has the European Union been in such debt, and we have a huge problem. All of us have to assume responsibility, draw attention to this. We know that companies are going out of business, they're going bankrupt, and there are companies that want us to vote support for them through the Solidarity Fund. And so, Speaker is interrupted.
1 minute.
Madam President, Commissioners, Taoiseach, the EPP Group strongly welcomes the Irish Presidency's focus on security of Europe and its citizens. We have already strengthened Europe's external borders with the Migration Pact and new rules on returns of irregular migrants. Now we must step our fight against cross-border organised crime. Because while we have taken back control of our external borders, criminal networks continue to abuse the freedom of movement within our union. Concretely, we count on the Irish Presidency to push for a stronger Europol and to make it into a truly operational police agency. And internal security must be reflected properly in the long-term budget. Organised crime has never posed a greater threat to our citizens and our societies. We must do everything we can to crack down on it. EPP is ready to work with the Irish Presidency. All the best.
Thank you very much. Now Stefano Cavedania, 1 minuto.
Grazie. Thank you very much, President. There are two main priorities for Europe: to fight all of the green madness that we've seen over the last term of office, ETS, the environmental tax which is damaging our companies and hurting them and our citizens. So let's get rid of the Green Deal. This will help us to be more competitive in Europe. And the second, no less important, is the security of our citizens. Their security. They need to have security and feel security on their streets, in their countries. And we can do this in two ways. We have to fight Islamic fundamentalism. Too many people in this room are not talking about this and are forgetting it. And the other way is to fight clandestine immigration, illegal immigration. Repatriate all illegal immigrants. Otherwise, the security problems will worsen day after day, as recent attacks have shown.
Gina Doherty, 1 minute.
Thank you, President. Taoiseach, Minister, you're welcome.
Said that joining Europe completed Ireland's journey to independence, and history has proven him to be so right. Every generation inherits moments that define the nation, and for Ireland, one of those moments was in 1973, and Ireland chose Europe. And it was a choice about the kind of country that we wanted to become: open to the world, confident and engaged, and at the table instead of on the sidelines. As we begin our 8th presidency of the Council of the European Union, the challenges that we face today are very different, but we will not be found wanting. We will give more options to build long-term financial security for the people and their families. We must find solutions for businesses struggling to grow, our young people options to buy homes, and really importantly, protect our children online. And vitally, we will stand by Ukraine and the defence of Europe, even if that means having to make difficult decisions when they're not the easiest.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we're a small island on the western edge of Europe, but by God, we have the power and determination to help build a stronger and brighter future.
Thank you very much. Now we'll do 5 catch the eyes quickly. Nina Carberry.
Madam President Taoiseach. Ireland's EU presidency will not be judged in this debating chamber. It will not be judged in negotiating rooms in Brussels, Strasbourg or Dublin, nor will it happen in weeks or months after it comes to an end. But it will happen around kitchen tables. It will happen at farmyard gates and school classrooms. In the decades ahead, for me, there are two fences we must clear. First, farming. Europe needs a ring-fenced common agricultural policy. It needs young farmers to see a future. It needs a pathway for retiring farmers, and it needs less red tape. Second, our children. Childhood can no longer be outsourced to big tech. We need to see a ban on addictive algorithms. We need real age verification on social media, and we must pursue those who allow abusers and predators to hide behind anonymity. This presidency will not be judged by promises made. It will be judged by promises delivered. And we in this Parliament stand ready to work with you to achieve this.
Thank you very much, Ms. Scarberry. Now, Ms. Jerkovic. Romana Jerkovic.
Thank you, President. I welcome the Irish presidency commitment to strengthen Europe's health systems. Health is not a privilege, but a fundamental right, and it must remain at the heart of the European project. Innovation in life sciences, biotechnology, and digital health offers enormous opportunities. But innovation must go hand in hand with fairness. Every patient, regardless of where they live or their income, must have access to affordable medicines, high-quality care, and the benefits of new technologies. A resilient Europe depends on resilient public health systems supported by a well-trained and valued health workforce. We stand ready to work with the Irish presidency to build a health union that delivers for everyone, one that combines innovation with the solidarity, competitiveness with the social justice, and economic growth with better health for all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Mr. Tynkkynen.
Arvoisa puhemies, EU-kuplassa eletään aivan toisessa todellisuudessa.
Thank you.
Irlanti on uusi EU.
Well, Ireland now has the EU presidency, and your programme is a very good example of how detached the EU is from citizens' reality. What citizens want is security, energy and affordable housing, as well as protection of their external borders. And what are they getting instead? Some declarations on values, an LGBTIQ programme, and strategies against racism. There are whole pages of this programme of indicators to say how people should think and which values they need to assimilate. Is that why Europeans can't sleep at night? No, I don't think so. So please stop inflicting your ideologies on us and finally start looking into the issues that you were elected to deal with to ensure security in Europe, a Europe where citizens are not frightened and have enough to eat.
Taoiseach, one of your priorities for Ireland's presidency is to strengthen Europe's competitiveness while protecting balanced regional development. As you begin today to steer the negotiations on the new long-term EU budget, will you commit that Ireland will not support a deal which sidelines cohesion and rural development funds in favour of narrowly defined competitiveness spending? And can you spell out one concrete safeguard you will defend to protect our peripheral and island regions like the Midlands North West of Ireland? Your values, your shared values, we will test them in the coming months, Taoiseach. We look for human dignity when it comes to housing in particular. You know the focus, you know the crisis upon us with 15,000 people homeless in Ireland and 5,000 children. You know we need to work harder on this. And if there is to be a right to stay, Taoiseach, in the regions of Ireland, then we need a common agricultural policy which gives all of our farmers a livelihood going forward, the small farmers and the large ones. That must be your legacy, Taoiseach, from this presidency.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Van Lanschot.
Okay. Yes, here it is. Dear Taoiseach, Ishma Onskahan Sol Karut. A friend's eye is a good mirror. My eyes see a country a little too fond of selling aluminium to Russia and tax benefits to American tech. But I also see a country committed to peace, the best live music in Europe, and a beacon of democracy. Pioneering citizen assemblies and referendums that were thoughtful and representative instead of blunt populist tools. As pioneers of democracy, we urge you to use your presidency to fight for democracy. That means getting rid of the veto. We can act decisively and democratically, or we can have the veto. We cannot have both. If you allow me to butcher Gaelic one more time, Ama agush fenu ahugan ula muyego korge. Time and patience brings a snail to Cork. Taoiseach, we've waited long enough. Let's get rid of the veto and bring this snail to Cork.
Now for the Commission, Commissioner Šefčovič, to wrap up.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Taoiseach, honourable members, I would like to thank all of you for your interventions and indeed very rich debate. The Irish presidency has set out a clear and timely agenda, and today's discussion confirms broad alignment on the key priorities, be it on our values, cybercrime and housing, highlighted in the interventions by Madam Garcia Perez and Mr. Weber, or the importance of competitiveness, simplification, boosting position of European Union on the global economic stage, or tackling heat waves and fires, advocated by Madam Aye and Madam Reintke. Many members of the European Parliament, Mr. Mureşan, Madam Šidlo, Madam Gál, Mr. Flanagan, reflected in their statements the importance and complexity of the negotiations over next multi-annual financial framework. To get this done, it requires huge skills, focus and persistency, and Irish presidency demonstrated the ability to deliver many times in the past. And I'm sure, Mr. Taoiseach, that you will do it again. To conclude, I would like to highlight that the Commission remains fully committed to work hand in hand with the Presidency, the European Parliament and the Member States to deliver tangible results, because we are entering indeed a decisive phase for Europe's future. It would require true European team spirit, interinstitutional coordination and strong resolve. And I am convinced that we will all rise to the challenge as Europeans and make the European Union in the next 6 months under the Irish presidency stronger and with unity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Šefčovič. And now can I please ask you colleagues to listen to the concluding remarks and responses by the Taoiseach, representing the incoming current Irish presidency, Micheál Martin.
Thank you very much indeed, President Metsola and group leaders, and I want to thank everybody who contributed to the debate, and I think it illustrated the rich diversity of opinion and views within this Parliament, and I've taken careful note of every individual contribution. So forgive me if I perhaps just respond thematically in relation to a number of issues that were raised, and I want to thank Commissioner Šefčovič for his contribution. And just to say, in the context of that contribution, that it is our belief that the Commission is taking the strategically correct decision to expand trade deals between the European Union and other countries to counteract the increasing protectionism of others. It is important that strategically we seek to conclude deals as effectively as we can, protecting workers' rights along that process and the essential values that underpin our economy. Our experience has been that free trade deals and trade deals benefit workers, create more jobs. That has been our experience. It can be Europe's experience into the future. In terms of a key theme that has emerged, protecting children is uppermost in the Irish presidency. And I thank MEP Weber for your remarks in that respect, in the sense that, and indeed others, and Valerie and others spoke about the importance of the regulation and the legislation. We are looking forward to the expert panel review from the Commission. It is extremely important that we do everything we possibly can to protect our children from social media and online, and we must devise the best mechanisms to do that. In terms of competitiveness and enterprise, and Commissioner McGrath is responsible for the Europe Inc. programme and idea. Now, he comes from a country which values social partnership. We've had strong relationships with our trade union movement for decades, and we will continue to work in partnership with them. We understand the balance that has to be struck between facilitating enterprise and new ideas, but also protecting the rights of workers. But neither are mutually exclusive. We were at the National Tyndall Institute in Cork last week with the President of the Commission and indeed other commissioners. And we saw there how research and development and ideas around semiconductors and photonics, those ideas lead to this formation of small companies, which provides jobs for workers, which expands and grows. Competitiveness agenda is about facilitating that dynamic, and we must do it more. We have to do it faster. And it's about jobs and it's about workers. But those small companies need to be European from day one. We cannot have national barriers against those small companies that will expand and grow and create new jobs. And Savings and Investment Union is about underpinning that growth by providing the necessary capital to enable growth at scale. Because the one weakness that researchers and people are saying to us in Europe is the absence of that capital markets union within Europe and the absence of scale. And many of our companies pivot to the American, US and elsewhere for that venture capital. Could I say also that in terms of the social issue, and many spoke about housing. In Ireland, housing is the #1 social issue. And the bulk of spending comes from the national exchequer towards housing. And we are making progress, but we have to make a lot more progress. So we will work hard during our presidency. We're working with the Commission to convene a special conference on housing, a summit on housing, to give it that priority. We will support the Affordable and Social Housing Act because it is something that's not just an Irish issue. As I've learned, it's across the entirety of Europe itself. In terms of the key strengths of the European Union historically, there is no doubt, and I've listened to many members speak about the centrality and importance of food security and our farmers in particular. And our farmers have progressed over the last number of years and continue to innovate. And we must continue to support food production. I understand people's concerns in respect of cohesion, but then we have to balance that also then in terms of growth. And that speaks to the budget. And that will be challenging, very, very clear from the contributions. Sometimes trying to navigate the budget negotiations is like trying to reconcile the irreconcilable in terms of different views and perspectives. But we must do it because Europe needs a budget, and we want to work with the Parliament in advance and to get work done on the files, to try and prepare as much as we properly can so that Europe is well prepared for the next 7 years. It unquestionably needs that budget. And on security, Ireland is a peacekeeping nation, always has been, militarily non-aligned, but we're not politically neutral. And we understand when Russia invades Ukraine, that's a violation of the UN Charter, and Europe has been consistent on that fundamental truth, and we must remain so. But we must also, in terms of we must be consistent in the application of rule of law across the entirety of the Union and in all matters and in all respects. And our principled global outlook must also be consistent where all conflict and war emerges. And we will work hard with the Commission and with the Parliament in particular to advance the enhancement of capability and protection and greater resilience, particularly in terms of critical undersea infrastructure, in terms of cybersecurity and the newer hybrid threats that we're all collectively facing. And finally, the issue, and people have different perspectives on matters to do with climate and so on like that. But without question, we are witnessing fairly significant events that we didn't witness before. We are on the green island of Ireland, and by the way, our grass is as green as it's ever been, but we have far more violent storms now, which are having greater impact. We see all the wildfires across Europe right now. Adaptation is important. we have to deal with this. There's no point in saying it's not happening. It is happening. You can have a different name for it, but Europe needs to respond in a resilient manner to these issues also. I thank you. I look forward to working with you on the wide variety of issues that you've raised this morning. We understand what has worked for Europe, but we also understand that Europe needs to look ahead and be visionary in making sure that the generations that follow us have a Europe that they can be proud of, that they can love to live in, to work in and to rear a family in. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Okay, dear colleagues, let's go straight to the vote. I have a couple of requests for points of order, but before that I would like to welcome two delegations who are joining us today. We have a delegation from the National Assembly of Vietnam participating in the 7th EU-Vietnam Interparliamentary Meeting. Welcome. We also have a joint delegation of senators from Morocco and France, so bienvenue à vous tous. Merci. Okay, let's start with the points of order, starting with Mr. René Aust.
Frau Präsidentin, ich bitte.
President, Article 187, Rule 187, according to this rule, it should be possible for members to table amendments and on this particular resolution, but you're not giving us an opportunity to do so today. So there remains only one thing to do. At the AFD party conference at the weekend, it could only take place with a huge police presence, and left extremists had called to try and prevent our party conference. So from EU Renew, they were threatened with violence if they worked together with us from these different parties in Germany, CDU, CSU and FDP. And they actually saw this happen because last January, at a joint vote in the Parliament, then CDU officers were burnt down after voting together with us. And another member needed police protection after a fire to his parliamentary office. So when anything comes from left-wing structures targeting us, it's not us that have to justify ourselves, but those who submit arguments and are willing to. The speaker is interrupted.
Now, for your first point, the vote today is merely procedural, so Parliament is not called upon to express a position on the substance of the matter, so under the procedure, amendments are not admissible. I give the floor next to Ms. Marketa Gregorova.
Yes. Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make a point of order referred to in Rule 202.1, specifically on the Rules 73 and Rule 60.2. Unfortunately, you, as the President, did not abide by the rules, and you asked the Council to revive Jet Control 1.0 when the plenary voted to reject it. You should have asked the Commission to withdraw it in accordance with the Rule 60.2. We now have to vote again on an urgent procedure initiated by your group that is ready to give in to this farce. Colleagues, stand your ground. Vote the procedure down and vote Jet Control down again. Thank you.
Thank you. I can assure you I do my job according to every single rule that exists. Now we move to the request by the EPP Group for urgent decision concerning the proposal on amending Regulation 2021-1232 as regards the extension of its period of application. I give the floor first to Mr. Tobé to speak in favour of the urgent decision.